This panel is super important. Influencers, brands are going towards influencers because they know that people follow influencers because they really want to, not because they have been pushed towards to. And that really gets a lot of credibility to the panel, and over the next 15 minutes, that's what we're going to go into. We're going to talk about not just how to generate influence, but how to manage and how to keep up with it. And today's keynote by Malini was a beautiful warm-up session for this panel. So before that, I'm going to look for my clicker, and Malini, if you can help me out with that. And I want you to watch this one particular video. Let's do this.
I'm gonna offend a lot of people, but I gotta do it. This social media influencer stuff gotta stop. I see the word used all the time on people's pages. I'm an influencer, but you're influencing people to do what? To reach a standard of beauty that's unattainable naturally, even for you? To lust after cars and material objects that won't give anybody any true happiness? You know what? Maybe you are an influencer. Because you know when people drive drunk, what do they say? You're under the influence. It's a lot of people intoxicated by the things that these influencers put out. A lot of people are sick with influenza. Listen, you got two choices as an influencer. You can either dig people deeper into their illusions, or you can free them. After coming to your page, do people walk away better or worse? I'm saying you're an influencer, but so were some of the worst people in history. The question is, what kind of influencer do you want to be? Say something. Peace.
Awesome. You know, influence used to be about authenticity, then it became like running behind numbers. So this is a great time for me to go to the panelists. I'm going to start off with you, Khushbu. If you can start off and tell me what is your definition of influence, because I know you're passionate about brand storytelling and about the psychology of influence, so tell us about your answers.
Okay, thank you first of all. So from my side, if to explain what influence is, I think at the end of the day, we all have the power to influence. What really matters is the degree. You know, how many people are we impacting? And I'm talking about the positive impact here. And for me, it's just very straightforward. If you are in business, you are in business of influence. Very straightforward. Because if we are selling something, we are influencing at the end of the day. And I have a beautiful analogy behind influence. Okay, just to say, we breathe, right? And we breathe 24 hours a day. It's so natural and it's so intuitive that we don't even realize it. It's not a pain for us, right? And for me, I think once you understand the psychology, the science behind influence, it's exactly like breathing. Influence is breathing. Once you grab it, it becomes the part of your life. That's what it is, yeah.
Got it. So further down the discussion, we'll get into how the tips, techniques, and strategies. We'll dive into that. I'm going to jump on to AJ. AJ is the Chief Marketing Officer of Subture, and very deeply passionate again about digital and about influence. Your take, AJ.
Thank you, Kiran. First off, I want to say hi to everybody. Is everybody enjoying today so far? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. I need a little bit more energy. I like energy in the panel. So I'm going to ask again, is everybody enjoying themselves today? Yeah. Better. Okay. So I want to start off by saying, for me, influence has always been very personal. Not because it was something that I had, it was something that I used to dream of. And as a kid who was growing up, I was savagely bullied. I went through my own journey where I felt like a nobody. And influence became a journey for me where I realized that the ability to influence others is the ability to make them not just think, but for them to feel. That's what influence to me is the ability to use your voice and to use your actions to make others feel something beyond the rational mind, right? And a lot of the speakers before, including Malini, including some of the people on the previous panel, not Dr. Frank, but some of the people on the previous panel talked about the rational mind and the primal mind as well. And I think that's very true. For me, influence is the ability to reach out to people, to make them feel something and not just think.
Got it. Malini, do you want to expand on your keynote and tell about what's your definition of a good influencers?
I mean, I think, one, thank you again for letting me be here. I think, one, thank you so much for being so receptive to what I said. I was always really worried that it's going to sound super emo and people won't get it, but I think I love that it resonated. I think everything that AJ and Kush has said is absolutely right. I think influence is things that hit a couple of key points, right? If they hit, whether it's outrage or emotion or sentiment or something that it touches a nerve. And again, what I try to get people to zoom out and think about is that these are real people that we're trying to influence. Unfortunately, what's happened is when we use the word influence, we suddenly stop forgetting, we immediately forget that the people we're talking about are human beings. And just look at this room. There's so many interesting, vibrant, unique people here. You can tell just from everybody's tweets and how they do it. And there's someone who's doing these amazing drawings, like real life. They're just, I think it's, just visual artists. They're just beautiful. And I think that's what's key. Influence is wearing your personality online, just like fashion is wearing your personality on your sleeve.
One of the reasons, Malini, why your keynote resonated with a lot of us is because you chose to be vulnerable on stage. What are the chances that a keynote speaker would come and talk about things that did not go well with you, accepting the mistakes that you did? I think that, in respect, I think it's a very, very key important person in building an authority and credibility for a person. So I want to jump into, when you spoke about how you were initially at MissMalini.com, you're focusing on gossiping and about scandals and a lot of negative things around celebrities, for which there was a huge audience for, and that's how you built your brand. And then you had this aha moment and awakening, and then you decided to change from gossiping negativity to positivity. I'm sure it must have hit your business. So how did you handle that?
Absolutely it did. I mean, there's obviously a huge market and appetite for gossip, but the way we like to look at it is short-term pain for long-term gain. And I think that I was really happy to see that there was a market, there was an appetite for positive content. And I think that we can thank social media for that people like to see people playing games, like the different YouTube challenges, and they want to see their favorite celebrities as real people, like their friend next door. They don't only have to look at them as someone they put on a pedestal that's unattainable. And the great thing is, and you see it, and I'm sure you see it with celebrities all over the world, they've become very relatable. They talk about things that are going on with them every day. And like you said, being vulnerable is okay now. Just like going to therapy is okay. You know, you can say it out loud. And I find more and more, we were just talking about this earlier, it's actually much better that I post a picture saying that I'm feeling a little blue today as opposed to a picture of my breakfast. It's much more relatable.
Very, very true. Actually, I have a huge respect for Kush. So we were having this speakers gang up together, and we were trying to discuss on some of the points that we'd like to pick up. And Kush, very honestly, she came and told us, hey, I'm not feeling too well this morning. I'm going to be a little slow. I mean, that immediately for me, it really touched enough. So thank you for being, for me, that's a reflection of a true thing, you are also someone who's CEO of a brand called Beyond 99, and you advise a lot of corporate companies, Kush. So when you advise corporate companies and brands, what would be your advice on dealing with influencers and building an online brand?
Okay, first of all, Kiro, thank you so much for the special mention. In respect to the brands and stuff, it's quite subjective on the objective. Like, what exactly does the brand wants to achieve? Like, if they want huge exposures, or they're just looking out to reach the hearts of the people. Because we have got categories of influencers, we have got micro, macro. I don't know, but I kind of believe that working with micro influencers bring larger impacts, and they have better engagement rates as compared to the bigger ones. Because I find the audiences connect a lot with those micro-influencers on a very heart-to-heart basis, you know. It's not like millions, like 1 million followers. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like 50,000, I'm talking about 30,000 and stuff. You see the level of engagement when you go through the comments and stuff. So for the brands, I highly recommend them that if they have the kind of budget, go for mass micro-influencers to talk about the brand and give the liberty to the influencers to be themselves. Please don't give them too much instructions, because then that loses the authenticity of the influencers themselves. So let them enjoy your product or service and present it what they truly feel. Even if they have something to say which is not good about your brand, please let that go. As we all discussed just now and Malini mentioned, vulnerability is something which is connectable to all of us. We aren't perfect, and let's know it for the brands also. So that's something I keep that in mind for the brands.
Thank you, Kush. So that brings me, I'm just curious, in the audience here, raise your hands if you think you are an influencer. Raise your hands. I absolutely expected this.
They are very humble, you know, Kiro, that's the point.
Humble, but you got to understand that each one of you are influencing in your own little way, in own little market, and that's exactly what Kush mentioned about. We are all micro-influencers in our own little way, right? So,
Kiro, can I add something to that? Okay, in terms of when I said every one of us are influenced, then I would say it's our ability to either bring success to our business, or it can also be to get our kids leave the phone texting while on the dinner, you know. That's also our power of influence at the end of the day. So all of us at any point of time has definitely influenced either our kids, parents, employee, bosses, or whatever.
Yes.
We all have that thing inside us.
Yeah, talking about millennials, and AJ, you're passionate about millennials. In fact, you come to this beautiful sweet spot, the juxtaposition of millennials and digital. So what advice would you give for youngsters on how to build their own personal brand, how to build their own online persona? What would be your advice?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I think to keep it short and sweet, a lot of the people that I talk to, I do a lot of coaching with people who primarily range from anywhere from Gen Z, who the oldest Gen Z right now in the market is about 23 years old, all the way up to people who are CEOs within the Gen X quarters. And one of the things that I've noticed, they all ask me the same question: where do I start, AJ, and how do I start? A couple of things that I tell them at a very high level is, one, try starting your journey on LinkedIn. And it's not like I'm saying this because I'm biased about just LinkedIn. It's about the fact that LinkedIn is probably the most, if LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook were cousins, LinkedIn would be the most disciplined. That's the way I see it. And it's not because of it being focused on business. It's just that generally, if anybody tries to post content that isn't too centric on business information or related to value proposition on any other platform but LinkedIn, they usually get away with it. But on LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of people flaming them, and people in general are a little bit more careful about what they say on LinkedIn. So the first thing I say is, it's good for you to start your journey on LinkedIn, get the hang of it, build an influence. Now, how do you build that influence? I'm a huge fan. I know Khushbu is too, Malini is too. Storytelling, right? I think authentic storytelling is really important. Anybody I talk to, irrespective of generation, I'm like, you are a walking, talking collection of stories. People always say, AJ, I don't have stuff to post. I don't have awesome things happening in my life every day. And I'm like, you don't need awesome things happening in your life. You know, Gary Vee talks about this all the time. Document versus create. You don't have to create another persona in order for you to be an influencer. You are that influencer as a walking, talking collection of stories. So identify those stories. It can be as simple as you sitting down at a restaurant and seeing or meeting somebody that changed your perspective on something. And that can be a post, that can be a video, it can be whatever you want, right? And the third thing, which is really important, is be there for others more than you are for yourself. Because it means engagement. One of the biggest issues that I see happening is, I've got a couple of guys who come back to me after a couple of months. And they go, AJ, I took your advice and I started telling these stories, but I don't see anybody commenting and I don't see anybody engaging with me. And I'm like, I asked them one question. how much do you engage with others? Like, how much do you actually go out and engage with others? So in my own daily life, what I do is, I always make it a conscious habit to spend half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the night not posting any of my own content. I just go looking at other people's feeds, and I look at their content, and I actually resonate with it, and then I add valuable comments. Because the first thing that people do once I tell them this is, they'll go and comment, and their comments will be like, awesome, great. Thanks man, you know? But that's not what really counts. A like and a comment is nowhere as valuable as a really relevant comment. A comment that actually connects you and creates a conversation. So conversations and engagement are really important. That's what I advise people, that's what I say usually.
Yeah, so if you can just relate to what would happen in a real life, you know? If someone came and gave a nice compliment to you, in real life, would you just say thank you and just walk away? You wouldn't. You would engage in a conversation, right? So I think it's very important for us to connect your online behavior the way how you would do offline. I think that would be a good reflection. What about some of us leading two lives? Right? In real life, we have problems. We make mistakes, flaws. Successes, failures, and that's what our real life is about. But the minute you go on to a virtual life, your online life, it's so picture perfect. Your profile picture is the best picture amongst all your collections. Your vacationing, the food, the awesome bouquet effect food photos. You know? So why is it that some of us lead these twin lives? So do you want to, and how does one draw a nice balance between the two? Kush, do you want to take this up?
For me, Kira, if you ask, I don't believe in having separate lives. For me, I think unless there's a balance between the two in a way that you're a same person, I don't say that you have to post pictures in your pajamas on your social media every now and then to prove that you're the same person. No, it's not that. But who you are from the inside and who you are from the outside is exactly the same person. If you are looking at a long-term relationship with your community, with the people who believe in you, then that's what you have to do. But let's say if you're looking at a short-term goal, posting nice pictures, the food pictures, I'm looking beautiful today, yeah, you have millions of followers, but what happens one day if you're not looking nice, your followers aren't going to follow you? There's no value behind it. What am I getting out of that nice picture? Nothing. So I personally believe that whatever is you on the inside, if the same thing is on the outside, you will get long-term relationships with your community. And I think that's what we are here to talk about, that please don't chase that quick vanity matrix in terms of, okay, I want from 1,000 followers to 10,000 followers, whatever be the case, I'll do everything that's needed to be. No, that's not what we are chasing for. Yeah.
Sorry. I have to respectfully disagree.
Okay, go ahead.
I consult for a lot of corporate brands, and almost every single CEO or head of a company is always looking for metrics. You know, you run a digital marketing company,
Absolutely.
You run a digital marketing company. I'm sure when you go and for your monthly reviews, they're going to ask for how many likes, how many followers, and how many shares. So I think, so how does one handle that?
Yeah, lovely question. It's very good that you brought this forward. You know, when I say vanity metrics, it doesn't mean that I don't believe in data. I run a marketing agency, I have to believe in data. Actually, I have to love it, and I do. I spend a lot of time just reading stats. So that's a different aspect of the story. Now, if you are getting, let's say, I give you a scenario, you post on social media, you got 5,000 views. Number of like, 50. Number of comment, 3. How much does it make sense to the brand? No CEOs are interested in that 5,000 views, it is not getting anything in return. Tell me one CEO who's happy with that value. What CEO needs, or what finance people need, or what the founders need is sales, return of investment, the ROI. So what they want is the money coming back to me in multiple numbers or not? That's all that they need. So for me, vanity metrics is, I get 5,000 views, 10 likes, and 1 comment is vanity metrics. But if I get 100 views, 90 comments, and 100 likes. This is called conversion. 90 constructive feedbacks from the people. And I'll tell you about myself. I mean, I have been quite active on LinkedIn for the past 1 year, and it has changed the way I look at life across the globe. Trust me, the platform is awesome, and I truly believe whatever AJ said about LinkedIn. You know, my favorite post on LinkedIn is the one which has got only, I think it has got 5,000 views or something, and it has approximately 300-400 comments. And when comments, it's not awesome, it's not great work, it's actually long comments where people have invested their time and has written to me something constructive. Whereas I do have a post which has 70,000 views, but I don't connect with that. I'm not really keen about that post at all. So CEOs believe in conversions, but where there's real value, not just numbers. Yeah.
I'm curious, in our audience, I'm fairly certain that most of us are active on Facebook and Instagram. So I want to know how many of you are active on LinkedIn. So can I request you to raise your hands just to find out how many of us are? That's about 30% of the audience. So this could be a very good wake-up call for the rest of us, that while we agree that LinkedIn is a good business networking site, but it is also an excellent influencer site, because that's where the decision makers are active out there. Right? So I want to quickly jump into Malini, you're an influencer. I was very surprised to learn that Miss Malini Media actually employs 65 people, right? And Malini started off as a single blog sitting out of home, and look at how you've really grown. So clearly the way how you built your enterprise is by dealing with a lot of corporates. Now I want you to look at the other way around. How can corporates, and many of us in this audience are part of corporates, what are some of the best practices for corporates to engage with influencers to get the message?
So I think Kush was absolutely right. I think you have to let your influencer be authentic, because the reason people follow that influencer is because of their personality and the way that they post and the way that they speak. A lot of brands make the mistake of writing the copy, deciding what the picture is going to be like, and saying, here, post this. And you're not going to get engagement on that kind of picture, especially if there's a lot of text on it, if it doesn't seem like the same personality of the influencer, and you're also going to damage that influencer's relationship with their following. So it's very important to let them be themselves. And just to go back a little bit on exactly what Kush was saying, and I think it's absolutely right, that the engagement in the comments is so much more important. Now, the question everyone asks is, how do I get that, right? Because people are not commenting everywhere. The reason for that is very simple. I feel that there's going to be a change in the way influencers work. Right now you have influencers who have massive following, that people come and they just put love you, love you, love you, heart, 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 biggest fan, all of that. But they're not really engaging with each other. The next generation of influencer are the influencers that are going to create community and subculture within their own brand. So the influencer that is a big food influencer, a travel influencer, is not just going around posting pictures of this amazing vacation they're on. They're engaging their community and their followers who love travel, who love food, to connect with each other. Just going back again to what I said in my keynote, that the internet and social media, ironically, is a very lonely place. It was meant to be a way that you can connect with people and find relationships, but you're going around desperately looking for someone to see you and not finding it. And the only reason people are not connecting and engaging in your comments is because it feels like a wasteland. Even for you, if you go into someone's post and you don't see any legitimate comment, or you just see hearts, or you see someone, I'm sure all of you get this, join me, follow me for 10,000 free followers, 10,000 free likes, all of those. First, go delete those from your comments. You're going to end up not getting engagement. Now, just like I was telling you earlier about Girl Tribe, I realized what a difference it is. So across my other social media, I have 10 million following. In the Girl Tribe, there are 20,000 women. But on each post, you see 200 to 400 comments, because they're really engaging with each other for two reasons. One, they feel safe. Funny story, I put up a post on my public Instagram saying, hey, this is inspirational, live your best life, don't worry about, things that hold you down. Some women commented saying, so inspiring, love this, told their own stories. This guy came and said, hey ma'am, come check out my abs. literally. So I realized that that's something that needed to change. So in the women's community, on Malini's Girl Tribe, I was able to create a space where women felt comfortable talking to each other. That's one. Two, they're able to actually feel that if I post something, people will respond. You have to garner that feeling. Just like if you invite people to a party, you have to go and engage with them, otherwise they're not going to come there again. So I would really love your help to expand this community out, and I think it would be amazing if there's anyone who wants to help create a girl tribe for me here. Please come see me after this. I think this is the future, this is the solution. And even for men, positive masculinity, and I was talking about this earlier, men are going to be the best role models for other men. And there's so many men here who are those role models. So it feels like taking 10 steps back. I know that. Like, oh, but I have so many followers. Why should I start a new group that's smaller? I almost feel it's worth it.
Got it. That's fantastic. The way to get online authority is by really building communities. So talking of communities, just a quick question to AJ and Khushbu. Have you guys done any such activity for your clients where you organized offline events? Where people, customers, users actually connect face to face? Is that an example that you, or if not for you, have you seen other companies do this? Just a quick thing. Can I request the console for another microphone, please? Mr. Console, thank you.
Okay, since we are not into event management, we don't do that, but we come up with the ideology of executing something in the similar way where the brand communicate with the people. So we did run campaign for our brand for one of my clients where we run a 6 months campaign, and there was certain exchange of giveaways and stuff between the client and the final audiences. So we invited them for a dinner. So basically it was actually all couples. It was to promote a jewelry. So they were promoting a jewelry, and we were wanting them to relive their first time they met each other. So let's say I'm talking about the couples in their 50s, and they met each other, let's say at a cinema hall, or they met at a dining and stuff. So we wanted them to really relive that memory. So what we did is we invited them to an event, and everybody came. There were approximately, I think there were 30 couples. And it was beautiful as a session. They loved it. They connected with the brand even more. And those 30 couple, we notice on the social media platforms, are quite committed to the brand now. They keep and engage. They keep saying small things, small gif also. If they had nothing to say, they would at least interact with the brand with a small smiley. So the level of commitment to the brand has increased after face-to-face interaction. So I truly believe, take your connection from online to offline if you want it to stay with you forever and ever.
Yeah, completely agree. In fact, so I'm a professor of digital marketing. Part of my job is to study in-depth patterns, and one of the best lessons we can learn are from musicians. Has it ever occurred to you that almost all top musicians, they give away their music for free? Earlier we would buy CDs and cassettes, now it's just available for free to download. But yet, they do a lot of concerts. In fact, I was having a conversation with Damika, a speaker from Sri Lanka, you'll be hearing from soon. His kids are actually, they've flown to Manila to attend Ed Sheeran's concert, because the concert here in Singapore was sold out, and they're flying to Manila. Look at that. They could have listened to Ed Sheeran's songs, they would have listened to 1,000 times sitting at home. Yet, they want to get that real world experience and going seeing and when somebody goes to a concert like that, and that's when the affinity and the bonding towards the artist becomes that much more stronger. So I think it's a strong takeaway lesson for us, even as brand owners. I think we got to learn that, is to really get online engagement out there. So would you agree, AJ? I want to take your opinion on that.
I think one of the things that I really resonate with, both Malini, Kiru, and as well as Khushbu have mentioned this, is that it's really important to be able to understand that influencing or being an influencer is actually a process of humanization. People need to humanize themselves. And I know that sounds really funny because we're already human, but you'll be surprised. People are becoming brands and brands are becoming people. And the funny thing is, I'll give you an example. If you went 10 years ago to IBM's website, and you looked at IBM's website, it was intensely technical. It was tons of text and tons of investor reports, and it's text all over the place. But if you go to IBM's website now, they've reduced text by 90%. It's very visual, it's very millennial, it's very hip, it's very engaging. And what's happening is, digital and technology in general is trying to mimic humanity. It's trying to become more human. That's why you'll see, if you download apps like Grab right now, you use Uber, you'll see the text that's being used in the app is no longer, please wait. It'll be like, hang on, we'll be there in 5 minutes. They've changed the tone. So technology has become a lot more conversational. It's trying to mimic and be human. And ironically, on the flip side, the dilemma is human beings are becoming increasingly digital, right? There was a release on by a paper in Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins reported that they've actually been able to measure empathy levels dropping generation after generation, right? So every generation that comes into the world is actually empathetically less inclined, which is, to me, which is really worrying, which is a huge thing, because if you're going to be an influencer 10 years from now, there's a likelihood that you'll be influencing more about the things that we're talking about not to do today, as opposed to the things that we're trying to revive right now. So coming back to the question, Kiru, it's really important going offline, not so much for the sake of just others, but it's also really important to go offline for your own sake as an influencer. If you seek to add value to other people's lives, you need to have a balance by doing it offline. A really good example for me, because I've been really active on LinkedIn for the last couple of years, I had someone who was a mentee who used to come to me for mentoring sessions. And we were talking about taking LinkedIn offline. And then around the same time, a phenomenon started around the world called LinkedIn Local. And he actually threw a question to me, and he said, AJ, you know what, you're really active on LinkedIn, why don't you do LinkedIn Local? And I said, you know what, it's not about me, it's about you. Since it was your idea, why don't you do LinkedIn Local? And LinkedIn Local is exactly what Kiru, what Khushbu, what Malini have talked about, is the ability to take connections online, or those likes, or those comments, and actually put a real face to that person, and meet them. And so LinkedIn Local turned into a really successful platform. So much so, I don't know if you guys have been following or you're aware, LinkedIn has actually reached out to LinkedIn Local now and said that we would like to take full control and ownership of LinkedIn Local. Previously, it was an independently organized event, and now it's becoming absorbed and owned by LinkedIn, possibly. They haven't come up with the official and confirmed response, but they're taking steps to own that platform.
And it was started by, I think, 2 women in a small town in Australia.
In Australia.
Something.
Yeah. Actually, it was Canada. It was originally started by an influencer that many of you may know. His name is Manu Goswami. We call him Swish now. So Swish started in LinkedIn in Canada. He did his first LinkedIn Local, and then he had a group of people, and then just spread. And it was over, I think, 60 cities with thousands of people. I know Khush has recently spoke at LinkedIn Local. I spoke on it like ages ago and months ago. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. But that's a good example of how you can take relationships online and really, really gauge a lot of benefit of them offline.
Yeah. So I'd urge you to look out for local chapters for LinkedIn Local and go and take the effort to attend one. And if you don't find one, you know, take AJ's advice and start one. I think that's
I have a question for you guys, because I struggle with this. Okay, so you said everybody should detox from social media and get away. I really have trouble with this, and the way I justify it to myself is that I made a commitment to live 50% of my life online, right? So just like I wouldn't disappear from real life for days on end and just not get out of bed, I feel like I've made a commitment to my digital social media family to be there every day. The second thing I really struggle with, and if anyone can find a solution for this, I will love you forever, is that if I take a break for 3 days, the amount of backlog in WhatsApp messages and emails and social media gives me so much anxiety that I can't take a break just because of that. And I see people nodding. So is there a solution, guys, to this?
Yeah, it's not my solution, but I'll tell you what. I host a leadership podcast where I interview CEOs and I try and dissect the DNA of their success. So one of the questions that I really ask them is about time management and how were they able to increase the value of their everyday work productivity. And some of the best answers that came are is not to completely turn off, right? Because once you go on a clean-cut digital cutoff, then you'll come and get swarmed by so much to take, which explains why when people take vacations, 2-week vacations, they actually, when they come back, they're even more stressed out, right? So the solution, what I found from a lot of these people, is to fix one certain window of time every day. Let's say 4 o'clock to 4:30 is the only time the CEO will check messages, reply to emails or reply to WhatsApp messages, and then they are completely off the phone. And they also set the expectation to their clients or to employees out there, saying that, hey, send me email at any time, but expect my response only at this time. So that's one. I'd love to hear about Kush and AJ's.
Hello. So from my side, I don't have that anxiety issue. Personally, I don't have it. I can really switch it off. One of the things that I strategically do is I don't activate notifications for any of my social media platforms.
That's a brilliant
So I choose when I want to go and check, and it's not they choose when I get to see. So that's something I have done it very clearly. I do go through that digital detox, but not for a very long period of time, because it becomes very stressful when you come back. So it's a day or two that I usually take it off. And somehow I choose weekends. I just strategically choose weekends because it gives me double benefit. It takes me off my work. At the same time, it takes me off the social life. So it really detoxes the body and the mind very, 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 very effectively. So I do that, and I really don't have that anxiety issue, so I'm not sure how to fight that. I think if AJ can help in that.
I think what I really resonate with what Hush said, because that's exactly what I do. I turn off all my notifications. Out of sight, out of mind, right? So when you know it's not happening, you're just like, oh, it's not happening, right? But the reality is there's a lot of stress if you take too much of time out. You're absolutely. So about the anxiety, I get the anxiety. And I recently almost had an anxiety attack because I took a detox for about 10 days. I took a detox for 10 days, and I made a challenge to myself. On the 6th day, I was caving already, right? And I tell this to audiences whenever I go and speak. I say, look, if your car gets stolen tomorrow, you will find a way to make sense of it in your life and you'll survive. But if your phone gets stolen, you'll have a stroke, man. It's true. I'm not joking. I challenge anybody. Like, if you don't have a car right now, you figure a way out, right? But if you don't have your phone, forget about us, forget about anybody on stage. All of you, if you don't have a phone for 24 hours, it will affect you. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will definitely affect you. So what I'm saying is, for me, the anxiety comes from the unknown. The fact that I might be missing out on all that, the FOMO, right? And for the way I'll do that, the way I'll deal with it, is that I'll tell myself that anything that's happening on the digital world right now, it can't be more important than what's happening to me in this very moment offline. That's the way I convince myself. I kind of go into the zone and go, okay, so I might have gotten 400 comments on that post that I haven't responded to, but you know what? 3-4 days more won't kill them, because the person I'm talking to right now probably deserves a lot more of my attention and my focus than anything else.
Exactly, AJ. This is what I even think. I mean, now that you've mentioned it in words, my feelings are getting more clear. That's what I do. I think where I am right now is more important than those comments to me, and I will go and cater to them. It's not going to left behind. It's just the matter of time.
But also, we're not as famous as Malini.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. That's true, that's true.
So I'm just, again, looking at it from the perspective of, if we're talking about how to be a good influencer, like how to be an influencer, I think this is something influencers do struggle with. Like you're saying, you can take weekends off. I absolutely can't, because most people are surfing on weekends. But it's good advice that, you know, have certain pockets of time where you do things, and maybe use analytics to figure out when is the most optimum time to be online. But just to come back to the influencer piece, I think this is something influencers do struggle with. And I've seen this because I was talking to some influencers, and they were saying how, you know, a friend of mine, she's a YouTuber in India, and she got typhoid, so she didn't post some videos for a few weeks. And her comments were flooded with, where are you? You owe something to your followers, and there is this expectation.
Are you still alive?
Yeah, literally. It's a combination of those things. And again, it comes back to course correcting our behavior of how would we behave with somebody in real life if they decided that they just needed a timeout.
So I'm going to request one of the coordinators to help with the microphone to pass around. So if you have any specific questions for any of the panelists, all you have to do is just raise your hands and the microphone will come magically to you. Followed with large family size Cadbury's Dairy Milk Silk. So it's going to come to you. So
I want a Dairy Milk Silk.
Yeah. There you go. So microphone straight down there. I have to confess that there is no Dairy Milk Silk. There was just a hook. But if you can just pass on the microphone, yeah.
Hi, sorry. I'm Vanessa. I'm from Lemonade. It's a social media and digital PR hub for the Dentsu Aegis network. So going back to Khushbu's comment on ROI. So one of our main offering is influencer marketing. And so all this time we've measured, or we have justified our influences based on engagement rates, right? But as you said, nowadays our clients are looking for return on investments. And
ROI, return on investments.
Yeah. So which has made it a reason for people to incorporate paid performance or boostings in the influencers postings. So that leads to then cost per engagement. Which some of the agencies are now basing their influencer success on. What would you say, or would you say this should and would be the way that we should move forward with influencers? Or what is your take on how we should measure the success of influencers?
Okay, first of all, just to repeat the question and to make sure we're on the same page. So influencers do post content. You're talking about brands using that content to boost with advertisements and stuff, right? Whether it's good or bad, or whether to go with that or not.
Yes, so some clients, because they want to achieve specific results or whatever it is, they start boosting their influencers' content. So
why is that a bad thing?
Exactly, I just want to ask that why do you think it's
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. So
okay.
I'm just saying that because they're doing that, so some agencies are now justifying their costs or things like that based on cost per engagement. So I'm asking is, should this and would this be the way to move forward with influencers by boosting and basing or justifying your cost based on cost per engagement? Or in your, I don't know, based on your expertise, what would you say would be the best way to measure your influencers' success or KPIs and things like that?
Okay, there's two ways to look at it, and I think every agency should do that. One is organic, and one is the paid. So we usually don't hire one influencer. We hire a group of influencers to do certain kind of activities. So in our case, what we do is we based on the organic results that the influencers get, we choose which content can go up to the level of getting it boosted or advertised with funds. So not all influencer content get advantage of budget getting put in their content. And I think brands should do that definitely, because user generated content has any day more value than they themselves putting their word across about the product. So let's say if I'm selling this bottle of water, if the brand themselves put it up, it's not going to sound too great. But if I, AJ or Malini, put the picture and just put it on the social media and saying that we enjoyed the water because it's quite refreshing and we really felt the difference in the body and stuff, it's going to make a change to the people how they look at it, right? So the belief is more when someone else is talking for you. And I think it's a great idea for the brands to put in sufficient budget in promoting the content which the influencers come up with from their brand. And please choose it strategically. The influencers whose content looks the most authentic, just go with that, and not the ones which just randomly post and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at an organic reach that is less than 0.5%. That's the organic reach. So if you have hired an influencer a brand has hired an influencer because they want to reach out to a wider market but with a targeted audience, and the only way to do that is through paid. So you're hitting two mangoes with one stone, which means that you're not only, when you hire an influencer, you're not only reaching to the influencers within their network, but you're also reaching out to the penumbra region through paid as well. So.
Even I'll just add one more thing. You know, in the science of influencing, where we are talking about the psychology, there's one thing which we say reciprocity, which means you give back what you get. And you know, if you want something, you actually give that first. So if the brand wants influence, they have to give influence first. And if that is given by other people and not they themselves, they're not talking about their own credibility, but there's others who are talking about their credibility, the chances are very high for the people to believe in them. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Did you get your answer?
Yeah, thanks.
You're in big trouble if she says no. So never ask that question. Yeah. So I'll just come right out to you, Roberto. I want to quickly pass the mic on to the gentleman at the back, at the very back, sir.
Hi everyone, a great session. This is Daksh. I'm a bit like the previous questioner, except I run an independent agency, so we are the bridge between influencers and the brands. So we take a beating from both, and we hear it from both. Question is specifically to Malini. You've obviously what you've built is over years, a lot of hard work, effort has gone in. What I've generally seen is, in terms of trends of influencer marketing, a lot of people are getting fantasized by people like you. And I see a lot of people quitting their jobs, dreaming of being influencers. We get requests from travel influencers where they say that, hey, I have a travel blog, can I get a free stay? I represent a publishing brand also, so they say that, can you give me free books and stuff like that. So where do you see generally the influencer marketing industry? What I feel is it's too mainstream right now. There are almost too many influencers trying to influence you. So from the perspective of where we are sitting right now, we're almost done with the first quarter. So, do you think it's going to be staying, it's actually here, it's going to grow from now? Because there can only be one Miss Malini. There can only be one, good travel influencer. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you so much for your question. So two things. One, I think that for any industry to have impact, you have to have massive growth in it, right? So when I started my blog, there were no other influencers per se, and if it had stayed that way and there was only one Miss Malini, it wouldn't be known as an industry. So I'm very glad that it expanded. You're right that it's become so exciting, and I think years ago it was the same as wanting to be a VJ, a video jockey, or a radio jockey. Those were the sexy careers of choice. I think, yes, there is saturation, especially when you look at food, travel, lifestyle. Two things have to happen. So we also have something similar. We have an influencer network called Ignite, where we help marry brands to the influencers. And we look at two things. When it comes to the influencer, you have to see, and it becomes quite evident early on, whether they're just out to do a series of promotions and get free things, or if they're genuinely creating good content, which is what I always tell people who want to jump into this and want to be an influencer, is at least for the first year, do not try to make money. That's how you're going to have genuine content and genuine following. People always come and ask me, Malini, how do you become a rich and famous blogger? And I always tell them, don't try to be a rich and famous anything. Do something that you love and something that you would love to do for the rest of your life, even if nobody paid you to do it. Make that your career, even if it's writing about food or travel. You'd be surprised, we live in a time now where you can make anything your career, right? I think in the future what's going to happen, what I said earlier, is there's going to be subculture and community. People have visited this large, big, bad world of the internet and not found what they're looking for. They've followed influencers who they are admiring and they love and not gotten what they need. From some they have, and a great example is someone like Superwoman, who is such an interesting entertainer, has made such a huge impact by being South Asian origin. She came out as bisexual. She's done so many different things, and even though she's a comedic entertainer, she has a huge impact on other aspects as well. So what's going to happen is you're going to see, just like you probably see in any industry, you'll have 100 of them come and maybe 10 will survive. I think that there is potential for there to be a future of other Miss Malinis. I like to call them little Miss Malinis. We're trying to hone them, we're trying to create them at Ignite as well. But the most important thing is, what is your USP? What is your unique proposition? As an influencer, as a content creator, what gap are you filling? When I started my blog, the gap I was filling was there was no content out of India in entertainment that was positive, that had a unique voice. So that is going to be absolutely clutch when it comes to who survives.
Yeah.
And I think you can't blame the young influencer who sees this big world of free goodies and wants to be part of it. It's fair enough. Everybody sees that excitement. It is also up to the brand to be intelligent about who they employ. And that's why there are companies like yours as well that are going to help them make that differentiation.
Yeah, completely agree with the power of niche. We have actually two standout examples who are speakers at this conference. Stephen Lim, who hosts the show called Worth It on BuzzFeed. I mean, it's a food show, right? I mean, there are thousands and tens and thousands of food shows out there, but the way how he differentiated it is that he compares low-cost food with a super high, obnoxiously high-priced food, and he makes it very interesting. Faiz, another speaker, he runs a travel and tourism company, but is not just any other tourism travel company, but he focuses on halal, and this is particularly focused on the Muslim community and really catered to their needs. And I think that's really the game, that there is enough and more space for all of us to make and master our own niche. We've got exactly 8 minutes, so if you want to take a couple of more questions. So clearly this side is kicking ass, I have to tell you that. Oh, sorry, before you, ma'am, I have to apologize. Before that, Roberto, you wanted a question. If you can just have one micro. Don't worry about it. Just let the microphone stay there.
Thank you. Hi, Roberto. I just wanted to touch a little bit on or push a little bit further on what I think Vanessa, right, asked about, whether to promote influencer-created content. And of course, from a point of view of a brand, it increases reach, right? And it increases awareness, which is great. But then, my question and what I'm wondering about is, is it even then influencer marketing anymore? Or is it just a different form of content creation where instead of getting an agency to go and get paid models or whatever, directors to create it, they just get someone who's good at creating their own content, and then they push out that, they advertise and they promote that content, right? But then it basically becomes advertising. My understanding and my view is, I think what makes an influencer is that they have their own following, right? And if they don't have a following, no matter how big or large or whatever it is, then they're not influencers. Then they're just good actors. They're good content creators, which is great, but then it's not influencer marketing. So, I mean, I think the trend of brands paying to promote makes sense for the brand, but it's really blurring the lines of what an influencer really is anymore.
To add to this, Roberto, you mentioned about, because marketing is not only about one thing at one point of time, you know. When you're doing influencer marketing, it's not only influencer marketing, it's done towards an objective. Let's say if a brand is hiring, they are hiring influencer. At the end of the day, the influencer is also getting paid for what they are doing. And it's within their circle. It could be 50,000 people, or it could be 500,000 people. But at the end of the day, we are also the brand has full liberty to use that content for bigger exposure beyond that 50 or 500,000 audience. As what Kiru said, that organic reach is one thing, and when we go on the paid side, we actually expose the boundaries beyond my own network, the own network of the influencer. So it's actually an amalgamation of influencer marketing with content marketing, where the content is not generated by the brand, but the users are generating it. So we expect better response from the audience than as compared to just a static picture or a video from the brand itself going out. Yeah.
I want to add something to that, Roberto. That's a really good question, man. And I think we spoke about this the last time we met up at my office as well. And I wanted to bring this up, and I forgot to mention it to you at that time. But this is a great opportunity to say that. I feel like the word influencer is seriously abused today. And I think the image, so I'm gonna step away from paid and organic and the metric side of marketing for a moment. I'm gonna talk about the psychology of what deems an influencer in someone's mind right now. So what you quintessentially see in society today is when you say someone's an influencer, you imagine someone with thousands and thousands of followers, with amazing clothes, with a certain amount of fame that comes with that title, right? But I think that's shifting, and I think Malini made a sort of a reference to that as well earlier. It's shifting now, whether you want to call them micro-influencers or you want to call them everyday people who just create good content. Now, I might be an influencer that has 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, but I personally know people who have a following on LinkedIn of maybe 2,000 followers. You know, at times when they post, out of their 2,000 followers, more people within their 2,000 engage with their post than they do on my 20,000, right? And I feel like that's an influencer now at any level. It doesn't matter. So you're talking about those people that may not necessarily have the following, okay? Let's go empirically on that. Let's just say this guy has 1,000 followers, but if you clump him with a host of other micro-influencers, each one of these people engaging with their small communities of 1,000 people are actually probably going to do a much more effective job than 3 or 4 guys who have 50,000 followers, who are just larger than life, famous people, but you know, the engagement of the authenticity factor is missing, right? So I kind of feel like that's really important. I think the definition of influencer marketing has to evolve. It will change dramatically. I agree with Malini. It will move towards everyday people as opposed to just celebrities, people that are unattainable, to become influencers in their own right within their own communities, right? I just wanted to add that, man. Thanks, bro.
I'll just add one more thing, and I think this is something that's very valuable for brands, is to understand this problem that even influencers are facing. One, again, if you get a big celebrity, they might hold up a fancy phone. Are people buying that phone because they see a celebrity holding it? I don't think so, right? When somebody buys a phone, they want to know how much storage it has, they want to know what kind of camera it has, and to some degree you might sell them something, but they're not going to trust that. The biggest problem that even influencers, and I'll say it honestly from my perspective, that we face is how do we get people to engage with each other into a conversation? Because I've seen this, like I was mentioning in the Girl Tribe, people say, okay, what should I use for my frizzy hair? I went and used a hot iron and burnt my hair. And they got so many real life, genuine responses, and they're going to trust that. So I would almost recommend to brands, and maybe there are companies here that can help you, how do you start conversations that are not fan mail within the post of your brand for that celebrity? Because most of that engagement is going to be, I love the celebrity, you look so great in this video. And it won't be about your product. How do you get that conversation started? So maybe the next generation of influencer marketing should be, how do you get your celebrity to promise to also engage in the comments about your product?
Yeah, be authentic, be vulnerable, be engaging, and build communities. And find your niche. Oh boy. So this is amazing. So thank you. Let's put our hands together for the panelists. Thank you, Kush. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Malini. And thank you. Audience has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your attention and for your insightful questions. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.